And here we go with our post-ANZAC Day podcast. This is the Titus and Sergio Variety Hour. I'm Sergio Paradise, and I'm joined by the inaugural winner of Monsoon's Nightclub ANZAC Day wet T-shirt contest, Titus O'Reilly.
Oh, what a tasteful event that was.
Oh, but I'm so glad you won it. I can just see you now standing, flexing the pecs in a Titus and Serge T-shirt while some buxom youth pours cold water over your chest.
What I loved about it is if people weren't across this, so Monsoon's is a nightclub, a notorious nightclub really up in Darwin.
In Darwin. Is there any other kind of nightclub in Darwin?
That's right. There are only a couple of others, but sort of well known. And they were planning, they announced that they were having a wet T-shirt competition as part of their beach party.
Yes.
Now...
There's a couple of things.
Yeah, when you're commemorating Gallipoli, is beach party the best?
Possibly not.
It wasn't a party.
No. There was no Annette Finnan. There was no Beach Boys. There was
That was the first bit. The Darwin RSL came out and said the promotion was incredibly inappropriate, which I think is a restrained response, from them.
So let me get this right. Not only were they having an Anzac Eve beach party, just to commemorate, thousands of men
dying on the
beach, but they were going to have a wet T-shirt contest as well. Still haven't quite got my head around how that links in, but...
Well, I don't think they thought that through very much. The prize was $1,000 if it was going to if whoever was going to win. Now, the thing is, they cancelled it after there was quite a lot of outrage about it, rightly so. But my favourite is Monsoon's owner, Russell Temple. He's really come in. This shows you that it's a different place, Darwin.
It is very much.
I've been out to Darwin many, many times, and it's a fun town, actually, but it is different to the rest of the... And they like it being different. But he's come in and said he didn't realise anyone would find the idea of an Anzac Day wet T-shirt competition offensive. So that's he didn't even think
He hasn't thought it through. Let's put it that way.
Well, then he said... We apologise for our naive approach and lack of proper thought when organising our activities calendar.
They have an activities calendar.
But I just love that naive approach.
Our naive approach, yeah. Well, good luck to that. So, and apparently, following on from that little controversy, Hooters have scrapped their idea for an Auschwitz night.
The thing is, you make that joke, and then we'll read somewhere that there have been things like that. There was someone who had it was in America, and it was I think it was a B grade celebrity or C grade celebrity, and they had an Auschwitz themed party or Holocaust themed party to make it
barrel of laughs.
And I was just like, seriously, where are these? Where are we finding these? It's the bit we keep talking about is how are these people missing all the
that Port Adelaide supporter would have been right into that.
That's right. It's when people say, it's ignorance, and you go, you just completely miss racism, you completely miss the Holocaust, and you completely missed Gallipoli and Anzac Day. These are not things that... If you're not picking these things up in life, this isn't like...
That's not just a naive approach.
No, you can sometimes understand when someone said, oh, look, I don't really understand advanced physics, or I don't understand, or you can sort of go, no, not everyone's busy. But missing these things
Everyone's busy.
But missing these things is kind of...
That's, just inexcusable. It's like I remember, I've got a photo up in my bar at home of a party mates of mine, we had decades ago, we had a Motown party. Right? And so we were blacked up. We were all blacked up. And we hired these great suits, with the brightly coloured suits with with all the frills, and we blacked up and we wore black afros, and we rehearsed and lip synced about 4 songs from the Temptations.
Right.
And we thought this was champagne comedy, honestly, and everyone had a great time. But then we were looking at the photo the other day and said, you wouldn't even consider doing it now. No, and you might lip sync the Temptations, but you wouldn't black up and do the whole shebang.
But this is the thing, there are times when certain issues, and that's an issue that's become very, people become very aware of it. And so, and the pleasing thing is society does move on these things and realises, and we've all said or done stuff that you wouldn't say now. growing up, the amount of various slurs that everyone used to say to each other at school.
Oh, no, yeah.
You wouldn't even think to say them today. In fact, you'd be horrified if someone else said them, but you don't really realise that until you grow up. And which is why I always laugh when various footy people say, "Oh, we used to do this when we were at school." It's like, yeah, we all did.
Yeah, well,
and then we grew up, we learned a bit.
We used to get a cane at school
there's
too.
a lot of things we used to do.
Yeah. I had a teacher at school who punched a kid in the face in the classroom, you know. Look, to be honest, that probably wasn't even okay back then. But
that kid was asking for it.
He was. He was talking in class. You know.
That was the Board of Education. That was the thing.
So yeah, and look, I don't want to equate our blacking up at a Motown party with, you know, an idiot who had a Holocaust party.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show that as you say, things change over the years, your attitudes to it. And so,
and you become aware of, like, this is the thing I always think with various things, like when people get upset about things, but you go, well, it's like the political correctness thing gone mad, right? When I think there are times when, you know, people go a bit too far on that, but other times when you actually drill into a lot of it, you go, well, the reason people don't like you saying that is it, you know, it's been used as, like the one that Heath Shaw said when he said retard.
Retard, yeah.
And people go, oh, you know, it's not that serious. But you go, well, hang on. It's not that serious to us because, you know, if someone called me a retard, I'd just go, okay. But see, I'm not someone who's living with a disability and all my life have felt marginalised.
And again, on that, it's like, as far as words like that, back when we were at school, you would use the word spastic. For example.
Yeah, and no one would think it too.
Come on, spastic. Yeah. You know, but you wouldn't even think of doing that now, and times change. But
that's not political correctness gone mad.
I think it's gone mad when you can't have a wet T-shirt concert
on ANZAC
Day or a beach party.
It's what our diggers fought for.
Yeah, well, as you've pointed out numerous times, our diggers fought and died for our right to financially exploit their image for as much as possible and whenever as possible.
That's what the AFL has done. And a lot of companies too. We had a surprising lack of really bad ANZAC cash-in. I think they all learnt off that Woolworths one a few years ago. They all toned it down a little.
And there was a couple of bars around town, I think it could have even been as recently as last year, who weren't having wet T-shirt contests, but they were doing the ANZAC Eve. One was free shots after midnight or something.
Yeah.
And they got sort of, you know, yelled it down. And so around Melbourne, at least, there wasn't much of that going on this year.
Yeah,
but that message hadn't got through to Darwin yet, obviously. But
well, you know, they'll catch up with it.
now.
I imagine the wet T-shirt competition has been rescheduled for a more appropriate night.
Well, the Queen's birthday, perhaps?
I was going to say maybe some night in the 1970s. We should add, we had an interesting story we talked about last week, which was your mate and mine, Jake Melksham's, who had another terrible game this week, I should add.
Yes, he did.
Against the Tigers. So how he gets getting games is quite amazing. He was caught because he let someone else use his betting account. And you and I said in the conversation that it's amazing how these AFL players, whenever they're caught betting, they seem to give them their betting account out to mates. Why would you do that?
And as we said, we couldn't quite understand because we equated it to, like, you don't give your Visa card and your PIN number to a mate. Why would you give your betting account card and details to a mate? But a friend of ours
a deep throat
who we
met in a car park.
He is a colourful racing identity of sorts and is very much across all matter of wagering. He contacted us yesterday with a bit of an explanation, which I found very, very interesting.
Yeah, so he said the reason that most footballers, and this happens a lot, actually hand out their accounts.
Their betting accounts.
Is usually the footballers themselves. There's two things. One, they don't tend to win much money, so it's not like there's heaps of money sitting in their accounts. Right. In fact, it can often have nothing in it until they decide to bet. So they're not worried about anyone taking money out. Rather money going in is what they're interested in. And secondly, because they're football players, so they're young guys but with a lot of money, a lot of them.
Getting paid hundreds of grand a year.
And their personalities around town and they're good promoters of whoever they've got a betting account with. You know, I'm with this one, with this one. Yeah. That the bookies are very keen to give them accounts and give them very good terms and give them both credit but also give them very good ones. So very good terms in terms of if they want to put a heap of money suddenly onto something,
right?
The betting agencies are quite happy to do it because one, they know their credit's pretty good, and two, they're kind of looking after a VIP client.
Right. So if a player wants to unload a few grand on, it may not be another football game, but on a horse race or something.
Or the basketball in America or whatever, they're quite happy to take it because
to take the bet.
When often they find that other people, when they, one of their mates wants to do the same thing, who aren't seen as such a good risk and all that, they're often told, sorry, your count is restricted. You can't put that much on.
You've got a $100 bet maximum or something. So and if you do win, well, you're not going to collect massively anyway.
Yeah, so the AFL players have these amazing, basically, they got mates rates on these accounts, and they have less restrictions. So a lot of people approach them and say, "Hey, I've got a great bet. Can I bet through your account?" Because we'll get a much better outcome.
And the player may get a sling of the win.
And I think the players often get a bit of that's fine, money going into my account's fine, and I'll take,
I get a drink out of it.
They get a drink and they don't do anything. But if they lose, it doesn't cost them anything, right? So it's a nice little earner.
Not that we're suggesting that that's what Jake Melksham did last week.
Well, we don't know, but I mean, it makes sense if
it makes perfect sense.
Because we weren't just talking about Melksham. I mean, I can think of about 4 or 5 cases off the top of my head where across rugby league and across AFL.
As I said, the rugby league players are notorious for doing it as well. The bet was placed, through my account, but it was a mate who did it. That's what I could never quite work out.
Yeah,
now
and you're like, why can't a mate just sign up? And the reason is the mate won't get the same ability to put on the same size of bets or, and various other things. And
makes sense.
The other thing is if, and I've heard this a lot, if you happen to do incredibly well over a long period of time with a betting agency,
corporate betting agencies,
they tend to cut you off.
Oh, they do. I mean, they
tend to
don't
say,
want you to win.
We love an even playing field unless you start winning, and then we just remove the playing field.
Yeah, they're notorious for that. That's why.
Which I can't understand how that's legal.
I can't. I've had it explained to me, and I still don't get it.
It doesn't have to be legal. I mean, you can pass legislation. How is it okay? I mean, I don't bet, so this is irrelevant to me. But how is it okay if you put out a service, say, we're doing this, and if someone starts winning, you go, we'll just stop offering it to you.
Yeah.
But you got to kind of. It's like when you get in a taxi and they say, "Where are you going to, mate?" And you say, somewhere that's like 5 minutes away, and they go, "Nah, mate."
Nah.
And legally, they're not allowed to do that. Legally, they're meant to actually take you if you agree to be a taxi driver.
Round the corner.
Whoever, you take the first person, and you got to take them wherever they want. And you can do the same with the betting agencies, right?
Yeah,
like if you want to bet. If you want to run a betting agency, if someone's winning, bad luck.
Oh, it's like, I mean, when you're dealing with live human bookmakers at the races.
Yeah.
You go, I'm a sort of your typical spring carnival kind of race sort of goer and punter. So if you go up to a bookie there and you back a 30-1 shot, put $100 each way on it, and the payout if it wins is $4,500. You don't go back there and he goes, "Sorry, mate. I know I took your bet, but I'm not paying out $4,500. I'll give you $400." That just doesn't happen. That's what I'm saying. I mean, take your bet.
But it's like him saying the next thing, saying, "Well, I won't do this again."
Yeah,
I won't take your next bet.
That $4,500, I'm going to put $2,500 on the nose of the next race, and he'll go, "Sorry, mate." And they're allowed to do that, but that's a personal one-on-one decision.
But I don't know why they're allowed to do that either. Like, if you're going to hang your shingle up and be in the game, then you got to take it all ways.
Well, they generally do, but again, and it's not.
I don't know. I know a lot of people that have been knocked off the agency ones.
The agency ones for sure
for winning. But, it seems like a bit of a.
Oh, it's the biggest rort of all time.
Yeah.
These corporate betting agencies, you just don't want to be a part of it.
So anyway, that's very interesting. That's why AFL footballers and NRL players and all sorts hand out their accounts like, like candy.
So feel free to send your accounts to us. All AFL players, we'll look after them for you. We've got good credit.
Anyone seen my tipping knows why I don't bet.
Yes.
Collingwood are in all sorts after ANZAC
We should get on to the football. Yeah.
I find it. Eddie came out and did a big speech, which
yesterday,
with Triple M were saying, "Isn't this one of the most inspiring speeches ever?" And everyone was motivated by this speech.
It was his version of we'll fight them on the beaches.
And if you haven't heard it, he basically goes, we're Collingwood since the 1920s in the Depression when everyone's always hated us and we've always been hated and we've always stuck side by side through that and we don't turn in at each other and no matter what people say, well, you're not going to do it here and all this. And it was this big stirring speech, right? It was like William Wallace or something.
Yeah, it needed the swelling of the strings.
They put it out with orchestral music on the background later on and said, this is one of the most inspiring speeches. And I'm like, it doesn't address any of the points of, I mean, why are they even having this conversation of, this is why they're all having this conversation, right? Is it all Buckley's fault that, let's be honest where Collingwood are. Yeah. They are hopeless. Yeah, they have no stars up front. They have no stars in the back
But we knew that before the season started. I know,
and their midfield, which is supposedly meant to be, according to Champion Data, which I don't know what they're on, the best in the competition, which is just not true. So Pendlebury's had a bad game, which Bucks then throws him under the bus immediately afterwards, which was amazing to me.
He's got to be crook, Pendlebury. He's got to be injured.
But I mean, seriously. But then Treloar overturns the ball like that's the aim of the game. Like, I mean, you know, this is the thing when stats don't always just matter. Like having 30 possessions, if you turn over,
17 of them,
or something, or you have 10 turnovers and 5 ineffective, and the rest are just dinky handballs. It's not actually that good. So the thing about it is Collingwood are hopeless. Now, is it all Buckley's fault? It's not all Buckley's fault. It's Ed's fault, and it's their various football managers' fault. It's their recruiting. That the whole club is responsible for this, and this is why they're all in it, and no one is going to blink. That's why they're so we're side by side. Well, yeah, because you all have stuffed this up.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why you're so side by side. Because if say a new Collingwood president had been appointed in the last few weeks, or last few months, when Ed was reappointed, right, which was always going to happen. But say it had been Ed hadn't have wanted to do it or something, right? Or it was just a normal club where you didn't have this sort of demigod figure as the president. Then that person wouldn't feel wedded to any of the people there. And all this side-by-side nonsense is ridiculous. They would have gone, see you later. So that's what's really happening here is they're all in it, and then no one, and they cannot admit
from the top down that whether they made a mistake with the succession plan to Buckley.
But they made a huge mistake with that. That's not even.
But it's not that. I'm saying it's not just that. There's that. There's the cleaning out of the players. Yeah. There's been poor recruiting.
Exactly.
It's I looked at watching the game the other day and I'm thinking, how does Levi Greenwood get a game? Again, I mean, I got nothing against Levi Greenwood, but the game's passed him by, and he's supposedly part of Collingwood's big midfield. Yeah. Daniel Wells did a couple of nice things, and he's more than capable of it. But a 4-year, $2 million deal.
3 year, I think it was.
3 year. Chris Mayne, he can't even get a game.
No, and he had about 10 possessions in the VFL. He didn't even play well in the VFL. His forward pressure was amazing, though. That's what they always say.
Of course it was.
But that's the thing I'm talking about.
I'm saying everything from recruiting to getting rid of players to the succession plan.
Well, and their membership's been going down because of how poor they've been. So there's a whole bunch of factors which you look at, which you go, this club. Now, there's no doubt Maguire built the club from being an absolute mess.
They were a basket case when he took over.
Financially and on the field successful thing. So, you give him real tick on all that going up to when he did this transition. Now, this transition, this is not so much in footy commentary and punditry is hindsight.
Oh, of course it
is. And hindsight's when you could have really not known ahead of time, which is the difference between hindsight and folly. Folly is when you do something even though everyone's pointing out and even you may not even know that it's stupid, that it's pointless.
It's going to be wrong.
Now, the thing with Mick is, I know it was announced a bit before, but they had one of the younger sides. He'd been around. They won a premiership in
2010.
2010. And then they lost the grand final the next one. Then they moved Mick on and bring Bucks in. So all the players wanted Mick. And that's not guessing. How do we know this? And this is why it's folly, not hindsight. All the players went to Mick and said, we want you. Can we even just delay this handover? It wasn't an anti-Bucks thing. It was, can we even delay it 1 or 2 years? Because we think we're in the window to keep challenging.
Fine. We can still do it.
Well, when they won the premiership, they were the third youngest side in the comp.
And then they got rid of half those players.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And a lot of them didn't like playing under Bucks, didn't want to. So even the ones that stayed, they all had drops in form. So he gets rid of everyone because they supposedly had a culture problem, which was an off-the-field culture problem of drinking and partying a bit. But they didn't actually have an on-the-field problem. Those were the people that kept winning them premierships. So they made a complete unnecessary change. Why? For a knee-jerk reason that Buckley was worried, that Eddie was worried that Buckley might sign with someone like North Melbourne. I mean...
Well, that's right, because, I think North had a good crack at him, didn't they?
That was who put the pressure on. And instead of going, you know what, mate, go coach North. Good luck with that.
Mightn't have been a bad thing. I mean... Yeah, well... So many, like, as I've said endless times, your superstar players and club legends, parachuting them into the senior role at clubs very, very rarely works. Michael Voss, James Hird, Buckley, guys like this, they very rarely are the great coaches, and especially if they haven't done. Michael Voss says, my biggest mistake was not being an assistant for 3 years.
Yeah.
He said anybody who thinks they can just swan in as a senior coach is an idiot, and I was an idiot. Yeah. So, but kind of they fell for that, and this is one of their great strengths and weaknesses at Collingwood is that they will make the mistake, but they will still own it.
Is that Collingwood though, or is that Eddie?
Oh, well, it's pretty
simple. Eddie, sorry or I was wrong is the hardest thing for him to say.
Oh, pretty much.
I've never heard him say it on anything.
Yeah.
Like even the things with the Adam Goods issue and the Caroline Wilson issue, he recently did an article in GQ of all places where he said, when you look back, they were all storms in a teacup. And I'm like, I don't think if you ask Caroline Wilson or Goods that, or a lot of other people, they were storms in a teacup. But anyway, that's how he views it. Like he minimalised it. The thing about this is they'll say, oh, well, it's hindsight to bag the transition. But it's not hindsight. There were lots of people who at the time, I was one of them, and I know a lot of people were, including players, and I've spoken to some of those players directly, who thought it was just a bizarre, pointless idea. Yeah. So anyway, that's where I just find it really bizarre. Like, so and also Ed says we've got to all rally around. We've got all this. Most of the Collingwood fans I speak to don't. They think Buckley can't coach at all. They love him as a player. Yeah. He's a favourite son of the club. That none of that's going to change. But we've had 6 years of him coaching, and they've gone the wrong way every year.
I agree. I know lots of Collingwood supporters who are exactly that same.
I don't know any that are on the other. I don't know any that are actually with Ed on this. He's I think he's losing the membership.
To paraphrase what you just said, I know exactly that. So many Collingwood supporters have gone, I love Bucks. He was a champion of the club.
Yep.
He's a ripping bloke and all that, but he is not the right man to be coaching now. So let's move him on.
Yeah.
But will it happen this year?
It has to happen.
Will it happen mid-year? But somebody suggested yesterday that Bucks might be the sort of guy, if it continues on, he might just resign mid-season.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to imagine him doing that.
I think he's too proud for that. I mean, I got no problem with Bucks but I think, look, can Bucks coach? Haven't seen any evidence that he can, but also, I mean, he hasn't been helped. And this is where I say they're all in it.
Yeah.
They're all in it, like they have all set about moving on a coach who was working there, moving on, more importantly, a bunch of players who were young and were in the premiership window. Now, they might not have gone on 1, 4 or 5 more because you have Hawthorn and Geelong around and, it was very competitive. But they were at least, it's better than this.
But if they kept finishing top 4 or getting close to it, there's no pressure on anyone then. It's just like we need maybe another couple of players to take us from 4th to 1st.
Yeah.
But when you drop down to 10th and then 12th and then 13th or 14th, there's pressure on everyone.
Yeah.
So where are they at now? What can they do the rest of the season? The season's gone.
But I don't see how they can fix it. And this is where, it's never as good or as bad as you think it is, they always say. But they could sack Buckley, right?
Yeah.
What's that going to do?
Yeah.
They got rid of Neil Baum. They hired Gubby Allen when everyone knew. They knew. Sorry, not everyone knew, but they at least knew there were issues.
And as
that's
become obvious that Gubby Allen was unemployable because he got suspended by the AFL.
Yeah, that's right. And they knew that was a big chance and still hired him. Right? They took that risk on
and he'd still be
lost.
copping his pay packet too. Don't worry about that from Collingwood, I reckon.
You reckon?
I reckon so.
I reckon there'd be grounds for dismissal.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know.
In his contract for for not paying him, but at the same time, they've kept trying. So say they get rid of Bucks, right? Who would want to coach them? Because you got Ed there, who's obviously makes all the decisions, right?
Yeah.
You've got obviously issues in retaining football managers. No one lasts. They either don't want to work there or they keep moving on at the first opportunity. I mean, there's been some extenuating circumstances, but it's a pattern now. It's not a one-off. Like, if you're going to go there, I mean, the only person that might go there is someone who would have the full say over a whole bunch, even the football manager, and that would be a Paul Roos, right? And Paul Roos would think about doing it. But if you're Paul Roos, right, going in and fixing Melbourne, there was nothing but upside. Melbourne were a basket case, had been for a decade. Yeah. They could almost only get better. Like, the worst, and he came in and he's done all the things that you needed to do. But even then, it's not like he turned them round instantly in his time there.
No,
but
it took him 3 years. But
3 years, and they're at least maybe going somewhere and got the youth in and all that sort of stuff. But if you go in and take that job now, they've given away all their draft picks.
Well, that's right.
They've got
a bit like
Daniel Wells on $1.5 million for 3 years. Now, even if he played well on the weekend, and he did play okay, and he might play some good games, is he going to be good in?
He's not going to be the difference between them being also round in a premiership.
He might even play really well, but he's not going to play well for all 3 years. The worst case is he gets injured in the next few weeks and doesn't play again.
That's a definite possibility.
Yeah, so the thing is, you've got him on a lot of money. You've got Chris May, and you've got a bunch of players like that who just. So you're looking at someone having to come in and turn over that list for at least 3-4 years. And while Eddie seems to not want to always, they almost do what Carlton used to do with the Wells and Main thing, is like constantly think they're almost on the cusp of winning the premiership because they're Carlton or because they're Collingwood. And Carlton have only just now, for the first time in their entire history, gone, you know what? We can't just buy in the best players. We can't just buy in.
We've had to bottom out.
We've got to do what
we've got a junior coach. We've got junior players.
Yeah, we're on a 4 to 5 year plan here that is doing, and it's going to take long because it took them so long to get to that point, right? What's the upside of going to Collingwood?
Well, that's what I'm saying. There is very, very little upside going to Collingwood as a coach now, because you're going to have, as you say, at least a 3-year rebuild and turning over of the list and all that, which, going on the back of these last 4 years, that means 7 shocking years in a row for Collingwood, which is unacceptable at Collingwood from the top down. So it's a catch-22. Do they do that and bottom out? But they don't want to do that because they're Collingwood.
Yeah.
But to think that you can instantly turn it around because you're Collingwood,
it just doesn't work that anymore.
Not these days. Not these days. It just doesn't happen. But on the other hand, it's great to see Collingwood going so badly.
But that's where I don't think moving. I think moving Buckley on is a thing. But they need a new president.
Maybe a new general manager. Gary Pert's been there a fair while. Although he's a great mate of Paul Roos because they used to play together at Fitzroy.
Yeah, but Gary Pert, Eddie, and their variety of football managers and their recruiters have all now got a proven track record over almost 7 years now of not running a club well.
Well, you'd have to say Neil Baum, his track record at Geelong and elsewhere, it was pretty solid and pretty good as a football manager.
Yeah.
And he's obviously, you could even say he's probably doing a pretty good job at Richmond at the minute when they're 5 and zip.
And how do you engineer that outcome by getting, you move him out to get Gubby Allen in? That's questionable just on its own.
Yeah. And will Gubby be there next year,
Imagine that. They hire back the guy that has just come off a suspension. Chris Connolly's probably looking for something to do. Now, one thing that was quite interesting, Max Gawn shaved off his beard as part of a charity, and it's now for sale.
It's on eBay.
Have you ever tried to sell a bit of your hair? I've heard of you.
I've tried to sell other bits of the body and had
Kidney?
very few takers. Very few offers. Certainly not. I mean, I think I had a look at this last night, and it's well in excess of $2,000 already on eBay.
So you can buy his beard. He raised it. It's for the Reach Foundation, which was the foundation that Jim Stein set up, and which is the official charity of the Melbourne Football Club. Now, I like this. This is what it said on eBay about it. Yeah. So you're saying it's up to a couple of grand already.
Yesterday it was over at $2,000.
Wow. It says here, the beard comes in a bag personally signed by Max and presented in a beautiful presentation box. This one-of-a-kind item will become a treasured collector's item for any AFL or Demons fans.
Yeah.
You put your bid on yet?
No, I haven't.
We should let our subscribers know that this is where the money will be going.
I tell you,
a bid on Max.
If it was only $200, it'd be worth us buying it just for the sheer
It's one of those stupid things that if I could, but once it got above,
once it's over 2,000, and look, I know it's all to charity, but to suggest it will become a treasured collector's item.
As you've always said, you'll never give any money to charity.
No, why should I give money
except for the Shane Warne Foundation?
Yeah, where nothing goes to charity, so that's why we do it.
So that's a funny thing. I'm a bit worried if players start auctioning off body parts.
Yeah, well, maybe, it's a bit of old knee cartilage or stuff like that. I mean, that's your collector's item.
You think knee cartilage is
cartilage, or a bit of Dipper's punctured lung in a little jar. I'd keep that in the bar. Straight to the pool room.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea to go for real.
Yeah, genuine medical emergency type bits, rather than just getting out the Gillette G2 and rip off the beard.
I know, because you can grow it back. It's not like you're going to own the
he does look
I'd like
very
all rights
different
to future beards.
Maybe I could swap it for a draft pick.
That's right. The only reason I've heard GWS are thinking of buying it to clone Max Gawn.
Oh, yeah, that's not a bad idea. Because, Mumford, he won't be there forever.
No. The AOC are continuing their downward trend into
I'm just loving this.
Hasn't this blown up?
I love it when...
Because we spoke about it on Monday and it's now Thursday and it's got worse in those intervening days.
I know. Our old mate Mike Tancred.
Well,
my old mate, I should say.
We should say that it's got... basically, accusations have got worse around the culture of bullying under John Coates, which is all part of this orchestrated campaign. And I don't think it's necessarily by purely Danny Roach, but who's his opponent. But I think what's happening now is, as we said the other day, suddenly because they can smell the blood in the water that he's looking like he's going to be gone.
Oh, yeah, they're circling.
Everyone's
the sharks
coming out
are circling.
Now, what I would say is this. A lot of these people were senior execs in the Australian Olympic Committee. Now, when Coates looked like he couldn't be moved on, they all didn't want to say any of this because they all wanted tickets. And now they come out and act like they were outraged. But they've known for years.
Of course they have.
So this is what gets up my nose. They've known for years he's a bully and there's culture of bullying. And they know all these stories and none of them have had the balls.
None of them have done a thing for years.
To do a thing. Yeah. And now they act all high and mighty like, I was bullied. Yeah, fine. And I'm not saying the victims of the bullying are the ones at fault here. I'm saying all the other managers that were in the organisation and the people on the boards who all knew this.
No, you
but
did
were
right.
willing to be collaborators on it,
or enablers,
or just to just
the whole
because they put their own personal wanting to go to the Olympics ahead of everything else.
Yeah.
Like this is what a lot of these people, not just Coates, but the people who were on the board and various things and knew about it and did and said nothing, and it's all coming out, and now they're all going, just this is outrageous. Well, where have you been? You've said nothing. Like you've said absolutely nothing.
And as you say, it's not relevant to this, but even at Channel 7, I know over the years, the lure of a couple of tickets to the opening ceremony will cover up many an evil,
Really?
Oh, yeah. There's been people at Channel 7 who have been, let's not say bullied, but have been upset for certain reasons.
Varieties of reasons.
For varieties of reasons that can happen at a TV station. Couple of tickets to the opening ceremony.
And it's all
fine,
forgotten.
all good. And so at the AOC, it's on a much higher thing. I mean, you want front row seats to the men's 100 metres, and done.
It seems jobs and all sorts of things too. It's not just it seems like the ability to be paid serious amounts of money over long periods of time.
Yeah, it's not like any of them were.
That's my thing. It's not that people always sell out. It's how cheaply they sell out.
Oh, so and nobody sells out cheaper than us.
Yeah, I'd sell out for a free ticket to Melbourne v Brisbane.
but see,
at the height of winter.
Mike Tancred has fallen on his sword, which I think is the same sword he used to threaten to kill people with.
So this is his head of sort of corporate affairs, who
spokesperson, former journalist
Mike Tancred, who you knew at Channel 10.
Yeah, he was. People who the name will ring a bell when you see his picture on the front page of the paper, which you'd be loving. I remember him. He used to be on air reporter at Channel 10. There was a couple of staff members who he allegedly
bullied and
threatened to kill.
And so things came out of that, and so it was finally decided that he should be let go. Basically, like you say, falling on his sword so Coates can continue to run in the campaign. And Coates will act like, well, I didn't know this was all going on. Yeah. It's like, yeah, okay. Sure you didn't. Now, the other thing is former AOC chief executive Fiona de Jong, who basically left because she fell out with Coates. She, interestingly, is one of the two in the gun for the Hawthorn CEO position. She, although this can't be helping her, she released an explosive dossier. Now, I think explosive is not like literally explosive when they say that. I don't think it was ticking.
No, and dossier, they always call it a dossier when it's explosive.
It's just a bunch of papers.
It's just a document.
Just a few emails.
Yeah, it's an email and it's been printed out on your Samsung. But let's call it a dossier, and it sounds like better.
Spies or something.
Yeah, WikiLeaks are behind this.
She released an explosive dossier detailing 12 separate complaints and investigations into bullying within the organisation. So this is my thing about, good on her for releasing it now, and maybe she was under legal things of not being able to do it before or whatever, but, obviously not just her, but the board and various others. All of them there have obviously known about this for a long period of time. And this is now we're hearing about it because there's an election on,
exactly.
They all...
Exactly.
So some of the... 7 of these 12 complaints involved Tancred. So he seemed to be the one, according to this, that went around and did a lot of...
the alleged bullying or threats to kill.
Yeah, he seemed to be the one that did a lot of
the nasty
Coates' less pleasant work. Now, he resigned just 68 minutes after... that dossier was published.
Right.
That was quick.
Before 68 minutes. Do you think in that was time enough for Coates to give him a call and go, Tugger, it's time.
Yeah.
Son,
and
time.
Yeah, I'll look after you some other way.
Yeah. If I get through this, don't worry, I'll get you back somehow.
As a consultant.
Yeah, or if
or
not,
on the International Olympic Committee.
Or if I get the ass here, I'll weasel my way into a job in Monaco or somewhere, and your loyalty will be appreciated and reciprocated.
Yeah, that's right.
To which Tugger goes, fine, I'm out of here.
He said, no, he threatened to kill him. What I find interesting here is Tancred obviously is not a guy that goes through on his threats.
No, he hasn't. As far as I know, he hasn't actually killed anyone.
If you're going to threaten to kill people,
you've got to...
I don't respect you if you then don't.
I was about to say, the tough guy image takes a beating if you don't follow through.
If someone said that to me at work, I've never had that happen, which is actually surprising. I'd be every day after they said that each day, I'd be saying, "Still haven't done it, mate."
Which would just annoy them even more, making them want to kill you even more.
I'll deserve it when I get it because I would have got to the point where I'm bringing it up too much. What also came out of this in a separate sort of thing is there are claims that Coates himself is also in trouble in a separate scandal.
Yeah.
So we can't have too many. I like to just think of them as this all as one big scandal. But
when a whole organisation is described as in disarray, it's all one big scandal.
Yeah. There's numerous ones. Is there a sort of a group name, a collective noun for scandals?
Maybe from now on will be a Coates of scandals.
A Coates of scandals.
Or a Tancred of scandals.
Tancred I like.
Yeah.
So they're having a Tancred of scandals there at the moment. And he's in trouble because apparently he... in a series of emails, it's all leaking now. It's over when it's the elite leaked against. That he apparently a young female AOC employee undergoing chemotherapy. So you're ticking a few sympathy things there.
As soon as you see
young female chemotherapy, it's like, oh.
So that's not a good look.
Because you can't have kids working for you. That would be the only thing that would make this even worse. She was the subject of email attacks from him. In emails released to the Herald Sun, Coates told Dijon that the woman should, and this is while she's having chemo, should get out in the real world because he was not running a sheltered workshop.
A sheltered workshop, okay.
Which now the Paralympians, in all fairness to them, quite correctly are pointing out that that's a pretty offensive
term for
term for them, and maybe he needs to. So he's probably lost the Paralympian vote comprehensively in one.
And telling a young cancer sufferer to get out in the real world's not helping your cause either.
Well, as you've advised me on numerous occasions, wait till the chemo's over before I abuse someone in an email.
Exactly.
It's a simple rule of thumb.
It's a simple, basic thing you learn at Harvard Business School.
There's a course in... Sorry, question without notice.
Yes.
When's the best time to abuse someone who's going through cancer and chemo? Should I wait till after?
Well, during chemo is probably not the good. You've got to hopefully wait for that magic word remission.
Oh, right. So
if
then
the word
it's
remission comes, open slather then.
Can you believe these things even come up? This is where satire can't even
You can't
match
make this up. But at the Australian Olympic Committee, higher, faster, stronger, nastier.
Nastier. There's a gold medal in just being an absolute prick. So they're awful. They're all awful. I don't know if there's any good guys in this fight.
Can I ask you this? Just on while we wind up on the AOC. Just imagine on the 6th of May, Coates does get back in. I mean, it can't happen, surely. But what if he did? What if he has enough, Polaroids of people down the tree that they will still vote for him? He gets back in. How does he resurrect the reputation of the AOC and himself?
He won't. He'll just keep... These people just start to care about... He'll be out spending money and paying people off to get it all back on. And the thing I'm regretting is, and I don't know... Can anyone run to be AOC president? So Danny Roach is running.
Yeah.
We should have launched a bid.
Well, why couldn't
we should have launched the bid as the clean skins who,
we've never won a gold medal. We've never competed. But geez, we know how to run we know how to run an event.
We know how to pay people off.
Yeah, it's like the old...
No, but we could have in this election just gone, we're not any of these people.
Exactly.
But,
but they say, and this is to do with Coates, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can see, I mean, over his 27 years, it's not like, we're talking Ivan Milat here. He's done a lot of great things, but you'd have to say it's the classic been there too long and the arrogance and, we can't say corruption, but the arrogance of the bloke and his loyalists.
They start to believe their own hype.
They start to believe...
In fairness to Ivan Milat, never emailed, abused a cancer sufferer.
And he never threatened to kill anyone. He just did it. He just did it. He just went right ahead and did it.
I'm glad
probably wasn't the best analogy there.
I'm glad we put that qualifier into the Milat family. Anyway, I feel we've gone right off topic there. So moving on from some politically incorrect people, let's move on to the Channel 9 commentary team.
who may not be politically incorrect, but...
Oh, no, they are.
They have been in the past, yeah.
So this came out this week that there's apparently UBS, which is a big global investment bank. They've urged Channel 9 to axe its cricket coverage because the network is losing up to $40 million a year televising the sport. So ever since 1970s, where Kerry Packer basically ripped the rights from ABC over World Series cricket by basically holding a gun to Cricket Australia's head, they've had them. And now in 2018-2023 broadcast rights period, they're looking at bidding on it. So UBS media analyst Eric Choi believes that they should walk away from negotiations if Cricket Australia's price is too high. He says the existing deal costs around 100 million per annum. We estimate that the existing deals likely only generates gross revenues of between 60 to 70 million. So there's about $30 to $40 million shortfall. Now, there's a couple of points I'd make here.
Yeah.
First, John Stensolt, who when we interviewed him, said very few of these sports deals actually make the 9 or 7 a lot of money, but what they do is they use them to promote the Master Chefs. And as anyone who's watched any live sport knows, like after the tennis or after
like Channel 10 with the Big Bash.
I mean, it's all about this. I'm a celebrity. Yeah, it's all they promote,
and it's a bit of a loss leader. I mean, it doesn't pay for itself, but it's good for the image, and they use it. It may not pay for itself in a financial sense in the short term, but it gives them that short-term ratings boost that they use to, as you say, promote the rest of the network.
And so Channel 9 would say, well, you can't just look at this deal in its isolation because it is the nature of it. Now, I think Eric Choi, who wrote this at UBS, who put out this note to investors, I'm suspicious that he's actually just a cricket fan sick of listening to the Channel 9 commentary team, and he's dressing it up a finance. He's actually desperately hoping Channel 10 or someone else picks it up because he's sick of listening.
He just wants to get rid of slats.
He's sick of slats.
Sick of Tubby and
that's the only thing I can see is the logical thing here. Yeah. But if Channel 9 don't want it, I mean, Foxtel would take it at the right price, of course, because they're always looking for content.
It's all the right price these days.
Channel 10 are about to go broke.
Well, Channel 10
came out yesterday that they're in huge.
Well, they just this morning, and this is Thursday morning, they announced their first half financial result, and it was a loss of $232 million, and suggesting that a similar amount will be lost in the second half of the year, of the financial year.
So they're not exactly going to have deep pockets to go and split. They're trying to hold on to the BBL, their issue.
And their $200 million loan is coming to fruition very shortly, and that's been underwritten by Lachlan Murdoch, James Packer, and Bruce Gordon, who owns Win.
Win TV, the regional TV.
3 blokes with very deep pockets, but 3 blokes who don't necessarily want to have to fork out that $200 million because, as they will see it, Channel 10 has been poorly run on their dime. So you've got to wonder.
But they brought in a lot of changes around this.
They did, but still, if Channel 10 loses $500 million in a year, it surely, how does it survive? I mean...
Oh, exactly. Well, anyway, I see what Eric is doing.
Your point being, though, of course, how do they possibly bid for the cricket? Channel 7, they don't want the cricket. They've got the footy and the Olympics. And the tennis, exactly.
So it's no interest to them. Like, what are they going to do with it? Like,
and it's the old thing, and Fox, as you say, Fox will want to have a crack at it, but then that will upset.
Well, the BBL is worth more. Channel 7 would be more likely to go over after the BBL. And I tell you why, they'd be more likely to do it because it gives you a whole summer worth of programming to promote your shows, and they would work out some way that it wasn't on during the Australian Open.
I was just about to say that's the only way they could do the BBL is if the BBL decided to change their dates, I reckon, so it didn't clash.
Or you have a 2-week break or something to go play Sheffield. I don't know, but that's the only way I could see them working it, or they put it on the other channel, so they're just playing off against themselves.
The tragedy of this happening would be the whole Channel 9 commentary team could be out of a job.
Terrible. The sad thing is, it'll just get picked up by
someone else.
Although I would pay, maybe we should buy the rights. What if we crowdfunded a bid attempt?
Well, we've been
to just avoid
our supporters group for the podcast is growing, exponentially.
It's not quite up to the buying
the rights.
It's
probably not $40 million.
$100 million.
Yeah, $100 million. We'll probably get the rights. We could put it on Kickstarter or something.
How much would people pay to not watch the Channel and not have to hear the Channel 9 cricket commentary team?
You put your money in. And you and I will just call it.
No, you group fund. You do votes on who should actually do the commentary because you're going to get like Kerry O'Keefe. People want Kerry O'Keefe. There's people like that. You get a few.
The Bondi vet.
The Bondi vet.
Sonia Kruger.
That's true. If you put the vote out to the public.
Sonia Kruger. Sam Johnson. He does a lot of voiceovers.
Oh, there you go. Now we should mention. another sport doing interesting things at the moment, as well as being at war amongst themselves, is the Football Federation Association. So this is football in Australia, or soccer as it's called, depending on, as I always say, who you want to annoy. You can choose who you want to annoy by what term you use.
True.
Which I love how blokes are getting upset about that, about whether you call it soccer or football.
Yeah, really.
Because, and you talk to people and one will go, well, soccer was very specific and football has always been, because, AFL uses their hands. It doesn't even use just their feet, so it's stupid. And then you get the other people go, well, it's always been soccer. So you get the fighting. They all argue to the point where I've heard an interesting argument that football, when it first was a name used for rugby and for what is association football, soccer, and what became AFL too, or Australian rules, football was seen as games involving where you weren't on a horse.
Right.
So you had polo and you had these other horse sports, like hunting, and then
not on a horse.
They were on foot. So that was why they originally all called that.
Right. So
I've read that.
So basketball could be football.
Well, technically, if you're going back on that, this was back in the 19th century.
Darts
before
could be
all
called
that.
Football.
Yeah, well, you're lacking the ball bit.
True, but you're also lacking the horse.
Well, you are. So that was where they originally. Well, actually, darts on horse.
Horse darts. There's a.
They have to gallop in,
and you have two big dart boards at each end.
These ideas, we'll be able to fund our cricket bid.
Javelin-sized darts, which you ride around. Oh, I'll tell you what. Yeah,
it's an ideas shower here.
There's the 100 million just flowing in now.
So
combine with Quidditch.
You get combined with Quidditch is the perfect sport.
Quidditch, jousting.
Quidditch on horses could work.
Darts on horseback.
Anyway.
And we call it football.
I've always wanted to play water polo, but involving horses. Horses love to swim. Anyway, the Football Federation Australia are already at war with the clubs. This has got they've positioned this a certain way, but this has got cost saving.
Right. What have they done?
A thing written all over it, right? So they had a talent factory, basically. They had a centre of excellence.
Right.
I love that centre of excellence.
Centre of excellence.
But anyway, they have a centre of excellence, and it's actually been a very good. It grew out of the Australian Institute of Sport
up in Canberra. Yeah.
And it's basically 24 players each year. Elite teenagers get together. It costs $1.6 million a year, and they're the best players, and they get all this extra training.
Yeah, it all makes sense. So what's the problem?
Now it's produced Mark Viduka, Ned Zellick, Mark Bresciano, Lucas Neal, Craig Moore, John Aloisi. So a whole bunch of just the superstars of Australian soccer have come through there. Now, they've announced they're going to shut this down. And David Gallop, who did a wonderful job at the NRL, of course, and is doing an equally good job stuffing up football, he said it served Australia well over a long period, but the time has come for a change, and the time is they're broke. We are working with clubs and member foundations to create a player development system that will be able to grow with the game around the country, recognises the evolution of the A-League and W-League clubs and their academies, and meets the requirements of our national junior teams programs. Right. So not only are they shutting it down, reading that is they have no clue about what they're going to do. They've got no
plans of what they're going to do.
What they're going to do. So it's just saving $1.6 million.
And I love the fact, if it's a centre of excellence, if it's that excellent, it can't be that excellent if it's been shut down.
Well, the problem is it seems to have the results, all the players. Look at the players that have come through there. The thing, my favourite bit is I sometimes think about the FFA, who run soccer in this country. Who hates soccer more, the FFA or the News Limited papers? Because they seem to both be having a fair crack at trying to end it here.
But how crook are the FFA going? If this centre of excellence only costs $1.6 million a year, and they've just signed another big TV deal, that's peanuts in the scheme of things.
But they're
we'll pay for it. Out of the money we've raised to buy the Channel 9 cricket rights.
If we've got $100 million for the cricket rights, 1.6 to buy the centre of excellence, we could have our own A-League side.
Yeah, exactly.
This is like Larry Kesselman who bought the NBL for $7 million. Actually, $7 million, we could have almost fundraised that to buy the NBL and all the people who invested
we could own the NBL. Own league. We could have our own centre of excellence for soccer. We have the new...
We're cashing money we don't have.
Darts
but I
on
like
horseback.
Another sport that's going well, we're doing around all the codes today. Super Rugby saga. Now, there's been a lot about they've got to downsize Super Rugby because basically no one can understand it. So you've got the stalwarts in New South Wales and in Queensland with the Reds and the Waratahs. Those clubs are going to be fine. That's where the interest is highest. But even there, I was up in Sydney on the weekend, and the crowd at the Waratahs game was less than 10,000. Yeah. And the Waratahs turned in a terrible performance against the Kings. The game is really struggling. And in Melbourne, the Rebels struggle to attract a crowd, but more than that, the disinterest over... I've never heard any sports fan in Melbourne say to me, did the Rebels get up? I hear it about the Storm amongst AFL fans all the time. Like many AFL fans,
everyone likes the Storm.
Or they keep an eye on it. They're at least vaguely aware, and they would...
People in Melbourne think the Rebels are a motorcycle gang,
So they're like, when they hear about the Rebels, they're thinking, who's been shot? But the lack of interest around the Rebels in Melbourne is just amazing. Yeah. Like, it's actually amazing how little interest there is in it. Like, the Melbourne United have a way bigger profile in this town than the Rebels do. So they're at the bottom of the pile. So the Vixens and the Collingwood Netball Club have a bigger profile.
Oh, no question.
They are at the bottom of the entire thing. So it was looking at whether the Force in Western Australia or the Rebels were the ones that are going to
get the flick.
Get the flick because they're going to get rid of one of them, they've said. Because Australian Rugby Union putting South African rugby and New Zealand rugby first ahead of Australian rugby, basically. They tried to get the Brumbies to merge, the Canberra franchise to merge with the Rebels, and the Canberra club, who've been very successful, said, get stuffed. They announced that they were in the next 48 to 72 hours, this was about a week ago, that they were going to cut one of the teams. Well, they haven't.
They haven't.
They had to have a meeting between the Force and the Rebels and the ARU to discuss all this. Well, that meeting just didn't happen.
Well, that was supposed to happen yesterday or today,
they all refused to go. Then there was talk of having
what's going to happen?
Then there was talk of having a phone hookup, and they all went, nah. So now you're at the point where it's like they're not talking to each other. It's like a family Christmas. That's basically what the ARU is.
Isn't the season still going?
It's on at the moment.
Middle of the season.
Yeah, it's in the middle of the season.
It's
so shambolic that you wouldn't... it's one of those ones where it's so shambolic, even if you're not a rugby fan, it's just interesting to watch what's going on. Off the field is way more interesting than what they're putting out on the field.
And you know what's going to happen? In a month's time, we'll hear new Super Rugby spokesman, not Mike Tankred, announces.
Mike Tankred. That's who they need to get in there.
They get Tugger in there. He'll threaten to kill a few people. I'll knock this joint into shape.
He'll kill the Western Force. And they just keep losing. All the franchises are losing on the field. Like, it is just...
I don't know what's going on there.
You could really looking at the potential... And I take no joy in this because I've been a big Super Rugby fan for a long time. And I used to think it was really a great thing to watch, like a great product. I hate when people say sport about that, but it actually was very entertaining for quite a few years there. But it's been run both. They're not getting results on the field at all. No. And then off the field, it's just...
Shambles.
I used to say people, you should watch it. It's good. Like, this is who you barrack for. Now I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. It's too complex to explain. But even on that, it's turgid to watch. It's
I got
terrible.
an English mate who grew up playing rugby in England. Yeah. So he's all over the Rebels. And I went with him one night. And look, I tried. I really tried.
Yeah.
But I found myself halfway through the game saying... I'm just going to be honest. This is the dullest game I think I've ever seen.
Yeah. And that's always been the problem with Union is its best games are truly thrilling, but it's the difference. But a bad game, and if the ref on the night is enforcing every penalty and just being that.
And partly that was my fault because I don't understand every little snippet of the rules.
But it didn't even give you enough to think, I'd go again.
Nah, wiped it.
When you go to the Storm, it's actually a pretty good, entertaining night.
Well, rugby league,
they put a lot of effort into it.
Faults and how much we laugh at the players.
Yeah.
Rugby league is for an AFL, someone who's grown up with AFL. Rugby league is so much easier to understand.
Well, it's presented a lot clearer. I mean, you wouldn't take your dog to a game.
Well, no, or your children or family,
But I mean, this is...
They do serve good grog in the super boxes there.
Yeah, they do. So we're really looking at the cusp of one of our professional leagues. I don't think dying completely, but going back to almost being...
Tell you what's gasping for breath, though.
I think it's going to go back to being, the idea that even the Melbourne franchise and the Western are both sustainable, I even think that's got question marks around them. I think you could see it going back to being a New South Wales.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about rugby, if you're look at the history of it, is it's not a national sport.
No.
It never has been a national sport. It's not all. In the very early days, it was briefly big in WA, Queensland, New South Wales.
It's always been big in the private schools in Sydney and New South Wales.
Well, that's where it ended up. It ended up because it never went to be a professional. It was always an amateur sport. Yeah. People couldn't play it, so they all went to either a league in the northern states or they went to Aussie rules in the southern states, and that's where it's been trapped. And when it became professional, it was seen as this was its chance to break out of that. See, the most sensible thing, which will never happen, but the most sensible thing is rugby as it existed, split into union and league over money, over professionalism.
Yeah.
That's why it split. In 1995, when the rugby union said, we are now going to pay players, right?
Yep.
There is no logical reason except for some rule differences, which are substantial in some ways, but not, for it to say, you know what? Let's get back together.
Yeah,
the reason that people long dead split us off into two bits was because of this. Now they'll never do it because the union people are the snobby elite who don't want to mix with the bogans as they see them, and the bogans see them as a bunch of private school wankers who treat them like so they. But when you actually think about it, if unions only chance, and potentially leagues in the long term, although I think there'll always be league and it raises a huge amount of money and run a lot better.
They'll always survive in Sydney and Queensland.
But you think if for an international sport, if they weren't actually connected back together, you got all the strength of the Super League over in the UK and that, it would be a huge turnaround if you had a new national competition that had the Waratahs and the Reds in it and the Brumbies.
Brumbies, they're the three names sort of.
I don't know if you could have two in Canberra, but then you could have the Rebels and the Storm in Melbourne. You're looking at suddenly bolting on a huge, and then you got the Wallabies nationally. So you actually turn the international component into the Rugby League World Cup, which is about to start soon, later this year.
Which we should win.
Yeah,
the Rugby League,
but it's nothing compared to what it used to be.
Well, the rugby, I remember the Rugby Union World Cup, how big it was when we used to sort of win it all the time. And there were, even as a non-rugby fan, I'd heard of your John Eales and Tim Horans and these guys who became sort of household names, George Gregan.
Yeah.
You knew who these guys were, even though it wasn't your sport, because the national team.
And you took an interest in the Wallabies were playing. Yeah. But the thing was, they've been so bad for so long.
Well, that's right. That's what I'm saying. They've been hopeless too.
But that's where I just think, rugby's pool of talent is divided amongst itself. And it's competing against the AFL, it's competing against football, it's competing against all these other sports. To me, that's the sensible fix for this. But they're all too proud in a way to go down that path, or it's too far gone. But the actual logical reason of why they're separate sports is now gone. It doesn't exist anymore. So, that's where
it's not going to happen. And in the short term, how or when are they going to resolve this stupid standoff over the force?
It's going to end up in court. And
you know how that always works out in a sporting sense. It always works out well.
Well, we should wrap it up there.
We should. But before we do, can I need to throw something over to our listeners, and I don't know, you may know the answer to this.
Right.
I know this is just a question without notice, but it happened to me on the way here this morning. On my way, I was driving to Studio Titus. I stopped to buy a coffee at the 7-Eleven because they're only $1, right? and whenever
so you don't care about the taste.
Whenever you buy a coffee at the 7-Eleven, there's always a bloke in front of you in the queue wearing a fluoro vest. He turned around.
Giant supporter.
We started chatting. And he told me completely out of the blue, and I don't know if this is true, that in South Australia and Adelaide, they have no 7-Elevens.
Right.
Is that true? Do you know this?
No, I don't know.
Well, I didn't want to argue with him because he was
seeing one when I've been there.
Bloke. But I was thinking, how does that work?
How did you get to that? You just turned around and said, hey, mate, interesting fact.
Pretty much it got to that. Yeah, about buying coffee in a 7-Eleven. He goes, don't know if you've been to South Australia lately, mate. They don't have 7-Elevens in Adelaide. And I'm thinking, well, what do you do? It's late at night. You're in Adelaide. you need to dispose of a body. Where do you go?
You were going somewhere
for your garbage bags and your masking tape.
But they got service stations everywhere in South Australia. That's where you're going.
But one of our South Australian listeners, please let us know, do you have 7-Elevens there or not? Because I really want to know.
Oh, I think you can Google this and find out in 2 minutes. But this is a much more fun way
to do it.
This is your way of promoting the fact that we will be going and doing some shows in South Australia. It was
a very roundabout promo kind of way.
And you're just giving it more mature to not like you. Well, on that note, we will see you next week. We're free of public holidays now, so it's going back to normal with the footy and everything.
There's no more Easter. There's no more bloody ANZAC Day.
There's no more wet T-shirt competitions. We can all go. You can all go back to being politically incorrect. See you next week.